What's up? It's me, Marty Intrum, the geeky American otaku. Didn't expect to see me back again so soon, did ya? I'm not normally as fast with these video uploads. That's about to change, though. Maybe. Anyway, it's time for my newest episode of 15-Minute Game Show Reviews. Anyway, I'm about to do a video of a game show that had a very short run, but thanks to Buzzer and before that, Game Show Network has been seen by a lot of people in the past couple of decades. Yep, I'm talking about Double Dare.
On your mark. Get set. Go!
Sorry, wrong Double Dare. Although I'll try and cover that version soon. I meant this Double Dare.
Take a risk. Take a chance. Take a dare. Play the game of Double Dare. With the host of Double Dare, Alex Trebek.
Thank you. Thank you, Johnny. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning and welcome to Double Dare 1977 edition.
Yes, this is the Double Dare I was talking about. It only ran for 20 weeks, but since at least the 90s, when the Game Show Network debuted, it's been seen in reruns now and then later on the Buzzer Network, as the show, like Buzzer, is owned by Fremantle. The original Double Dare premiered on CBS on December 13th, 1976, and ended on April 29th, 1977, after just 96 episodes. The show was produced by game show legends Mark Goodson and Bill Todman, and it was created by Jay Wolpert, the former Price is Right producer, who later created fan favorites such as Whew, Hitman, Blackout, Rodeo Drive, Wait Till You Have Kids, and his most successful show, Shopping Spree. Jay later returned to The Price is Right in 1994, working on Doug Davidson's short-lived nighttime version, and then later as a producer on the syndicated Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. Wolpert died in January of 2022 from complications from Alzheimer's at age 79. The host was the legendary Alex Trebek. Born in 1940 in Sudbury, Ontario, Canada, Alex began his career in broadcasting in 1961 for the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, and covering different events for the national broadcasters' radio and television networks. His first hosting gig for the CBC was a music show called Music Hop in 1963, and his first game show was a teen quizzer called Reach for the Top from 1966 to 73. In 1971, Alex moved to the United States and hosted the short-lived NBC game show The Wizard of Oz. His first big success in the U.S. was NBC's High Rollers, which he hosted from 1974 to 76, and again from 1978 to 1980. He also hosted the $128,000 question, Battlestars in 2 incarnations, and fan favorite Pitfall, although Alex wasn't a fan. In 1984, Alex would land the job that would make him an American TV icon when he was selected to host a revival of the quiz show Jeopardy, which he would helm for the remainder of his life. In 1987, while hosting Jeopardy, Alex was selected to host a revival of another classic game show, in this case, Classic Concentration on NBC, and in February of 1991, was made to host the Peacock Network's revival of To Tell the Truth, making him the first, and so far, only person to host 3 game shows at one time. To Tell the Truth's revival ended in May of 1991 and Concentration in September, although NBC aired reruns of the latter until at least 1994. But it was Jeopardy that Alex Trebek will be forever remembered for. During the 36 years he hosted Jeopardy, Alex won 8 Daytime Emmy Awards for Outstanding Game Show Host, as well as a Lifetime Achievement Award, a Peabody Award, and a star on both the Hollywood Walk of Fame and Canada's Walk of Fame in Toronto. While he was hosting Jeopardy, Alex made several appearances on other TV shows and movies, usually where Jeopardy was a plot device, including, but not limited to, Mama's Family, Cheers, White Men Can't Jump, Golden Girls, Groundhog Day, The Larry Sanders Show, Blossom, The Nanny, Beverly Hills 90210, Rugrats, The Simpsons, Seinfeld, The Magic School Bus, Arthur, The X-Files, Charlie's Angels, Finding Forrester, Family Guy, How I Met Your Mother, Saturday Night Live, where he was parodied very well by Will Ferrell, Hot in Cleveland, Orange is the New Black, The Bucket List, RuPaul's Drag Race, and Scooby-Doo and Guess Who, one of his last TV appearances. In March 2019, Alex announced to the world that he had been diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer, but he would continue to host Jeopardy as long as he was able. Jeopardy was forced to stop production in March of 2020 due to the COVID pandemic, but resumed in August for the start of the 37th season without an audience and with social distancing measures enforced. Alex would publish a memoir in July of that year called The Answer Is: Reflections on My Life. Sadly, on November 8th, 2020, Alex lost his battle with cancer after 20 months at the age of 80. His last episode, which would have aired on Christmas Day, was ultimately delayed to January 8th, 2021. Before the beginning of the show's 38th season in September of 2021, Stage 10 at Sony Pictures Studios in Culver City, where Jeopardy had been taped since 1995, was renamed the Alex Trebek Stage in his honor. The announcer was originally Johnny Olson, who had been a staple of Goodson Todman Productions dating back to 1960, on the original To Tell the Truth on CBS, and then joined its sister show, What's My Line, remaining with both until their cancellations later in that decade. Johnny also announced for the original Match Game on NBC from 1962 to 69. In 1972, he became the announcer on CBS's revival of The Price is Right, which is still airing today, and then a year later, the iNetwork's revival of Match Game, reuniting him with Gene Rayburn, and he made many on-screen appearances on both shows. Other Goodson Todman shows he announced for regularly were Now You See It, Concentration with Jack Nars, Mind Readers, Body Language, and the 1982-84 revival of Tattletales. Johnny Olson died in 1985 at the age of 75. The second announcer for Double Dare was fellow Goodson Todman standby Gene Wood, whose announcing cred included the original 1966 version of Supermarket Sweep on ABC and the 1969-72 revival of Beat the Clock, before Gene himself took over as host for the next 2 years. In 1974, Gene became the announcer on Goodson Todman's new hit on CBS Tattletales, which he helmed until its cancellation in 1978, and then in 1976, became the announcer on Family Feud, which he helmed twice, from 1976 to 85, and again from 1988 to 95. He also announced on both versions of Card Sharks, Password Plus, Match Game Hollywood Squares Hour, Super Password, Love Connection from 1985 to 88, Win, Lose, or Draw, the 1990-91 revival of Match Game, and finally, Family Challenge on the Family Channel from 1996 to 98. He also did a few voiceovers on the Game Show Network before retiring in 1998. Gene Wood passed away at the age of 78 in 2004. The gameplay worked like this. 2 contestants competed, one of which was almost always a returning champion. They would be placed in isolation booths. The contestants attempted to identify a subject. It could be a person, a place, a thing, a title, a historic event, whatever. Anyway, the identity of the subject was based on one-sentence clues that were given to them one at a time on an electronic game board. The correct response was shown to the home audience before the first clue was given, and Alex would tell the home viewers to look away if they wanted to play along. A maximum of 10 clues were played for each subject, typically starting with obscure pieces of trivia and progressing towards more widely known facts. Either contestant could buzz in at any time to guess the subject, and doing so closed off the opponent's booth so that they could not see or hear anything. A correct guess won $50 for the contestant, and they would move into a dare situation. However, a miss would close their own booth, reopen the other player's booth, and gave the opponent a chance to see the next clue, which Alex called a penalty clue, and offer a free guess unopposed. If the opponent also missed, both booths were opened again, and play would resume with the next clue after the penalty clue, which will otherwise never be seen by the first contestant. Now, once a contestant correctly identifies the subject on a buzz-in, they would enter a dare situation. The contestant was shown the next clue in sequence and could decide whether or not to dare their opponent to answer. If the contestant gave the answer on a penalty clue, it would be used for the dare since the opponent had not yet seen it. Regardless, if the contestant chose to dare, the opponent's booth was opened up again and they would have 5 seconds to study the clue before making a guess. A correct answer awarded $50 to the opponent and ended the round, but a miss awarded $100 to the daring contestant, closed the opponent's booth yet again, and gave the contestant a chance to offer a double dare based on the next clue. A correct answer on a double dare awarded $100 to the opponent, and a miss awarded $200 to the double daring contestant. Alex would then reveal to the answer to the subject, the round was over, and a new subject would be revealed. Play on a particular subject ended after any of the following occurred. A contestant identified the subject and chose not to take a dare. A contestant successfully dared the opponent but chose not to double dare. The opponent correctly identified the subject on a dare. A double dare was played regardless of the outcome, or neither contestant identified the subject after all 10 clues were played, and this happened at least once. The first contestant to score $500 or more won the game and moved on to the bonus round. Both contestants kept their money up to that point, and the runner-up of each game also received parting gifts. The winner of the main game went on to the bonus round called Beat the Spoilers. The champion faced a panel of 3 PhDs called the Spoilers, as they won the money when the champion did not. The Spoilers were sometimes 3 men or 2 men and 1 woman, placed in separate isolation booths so that they could not see or hear each other, and the booths were turned off to begin the round. The game board displayed a subject and 8 numbered clues, or 10 in the pilot, in random order of difficulty and was placed so that the spoilers could not see them. The contestant selected 1 clue at a time, and after seeing and hearing the clue, had to decide whether to pass it or give it to the spoilers. The champion could pass up to 4 times, or 5 in the pilot, and these clues were immediately discarded from play. If the contestant decided to give a clue to the spoilers, their booths were turned on long enough for Alex to read it to them, one at a time, so that each spoiler could guess the subject without being heard by the others. Each incorrect answer by the spoiler awarded $100 to the contestant, while a correct answer awarded that amount to the spoiler, and then they took no further part in the round, and the booth was left turned on so they could hear the other guesses. Anyway, the round continued as long as at least 1 spoiler failed to guess correctly. If all 3 spoilers managed to identify the subject, the bonus round was over, but the champion received any money accumulated to that point from incorrect guesses. If any of the spoilers were unable to identify the subject after giving 4 clues, or 5 in the pilot, the champion won $5,000. Regardless of the outcome, the champion would then face another challenger. Champion stayed on until either defeated or surpassing CBS's maximum winnings limit, which for this show was $20,000, as opposed to $25,000 on their other shows. Alan Lusher, seen here, was the only contestant to retire as champion after crossing the $20,000 threshold in the main game before picking up an extra $300 in the spoilers round, leaving with $20,500. Now, that is how the original Double Dare was played. Now let's take a risk, take a chance, take a dare, and grade Double Dare. I never heard of this version of Double Dare until I first saw it on the Game Show Network around 2006 or 2007. For me, Double Dare was Nickelodeon's version, including the short-lived Double Dare 2000. It was all about the mess, and it is still remembered to this day. This version that came a decade earlier is more or less forgotten. The main reason the original Double Dare bombed was ratings, plain and simple. CBS placed Double Dare at 11 a.m. Eastern, or 10 a.m. everywhere else, replacing Gambit with Wink Martindale after 4 years. Unfortunately, by then, its competition was NBC's top game show, Wheel of Fortune, with Chuck Woolery, which by then had been on the air for almost 2 years by that point. CBS ended up moving it to 10 a.m. on March 7th, 1977, and moved The Price is Right to 10:30. But after seeing no further success, CBS gave up, and Double Dare aired its last episode on April 29th, 1977. However, many of the sound effects would be reused on other Goods and Tubman game shows, such as The Price is Right, and the theme song would later be used on NBC's more successful show, Card Sharks, with Jim Perry. As for the show itself, well, it was interesting. I mean, the gameplay was different from other game shows at the time, and even some game shows now. But truthfully, it seems somewhat boring. I know I'm going to get a lot of hate mail from my fellow game shows fans for that, but that's just how I feel. Basically, you were just trying to identify someone or something based on factual statements, and you just had to make sure you knew it before your opponent did. However, some of the statements could end up being unintentionally humorous, such as in the final episodes with these clues describing a boomerang. In fact, it's possible that the statements would later be reworked into the bloopers on Jay Wolpert's second series, Whew, but with the humorous errors added. And while it has pretty much nothing in common with Nickelodeon's version except the name, it's possible the Nickelodeon may have copied the strategy element into their show, where taking a risk and doubled the money by daring their opponent to answer on the basis that they don't know it, albeit without the extra element of a physical challenge. As for the bonus round, basically you just had to be smarter than 3 really smart people, something that would probably later be incorporated into Win Ben Stein's Money's endgame 2 decades later, though the strategy element from the main game still applied. And of course, I will say this, the champions who were successful in beating the spoilers definitely earned every penny of that $5,000. Alex, of course, was in perfect form here, as he always was, and he even showed off some of the professionalism and sophistication that he would later use on Jeopardy and some of his other shows. Not to mention, he'd have some flashes of dry wit, like in this moment from the final episode.
Although he was idolized in Prague, when he died in Vienna, he was given a pauper's funeral in an unmarked grave. Dr. Doty? Mozart. You deleted expletives.
Anyway, that being said, the original Double Dare, while not really special, it's still challenging, and since it may have ended up influencing other game shows, it deserves some credit. So for that, the original Double Dare gets the solid B. Well, now we'll talk about how I'd revive the show if I had the chance. It's very, very unlikely this show will ever be brought back, especially since Nickelodeon's version of Double Dare is far more well-known. Fremantle, which owns the Goodson Todman Library, owns the format, but they would basically be selling a new show from scratch with a new title. Maybe they could call it Just the Facts, or as a reference to the bonus round, Outsmarted. I'm not sure. Now, the game could be played the same as before, but there'd be no returning champions, and as such, it wouldn't straddle between episodes. The first player to buzz in with a correct answer would earn $250, with a successful dare, now maybe called a double-up since they can't call it a dare, worth $500, and a successful double-up worth $1,000. The game would simply end when time was called, and whoever had the most money faced the spoilers with the same rules as before. Stuffing a spoiler wins $1,000 for each clue given, and awards $1,000 to the spoiler for a correct answer, and giving 4 clues will win an additional $25,000. As for the host, that's going to be a tough one. Alex Trebek is irreplaceable, but for a show like this, I could see Todd Newton, Graham Elwood, or John Michael Higgins running it. Anyway, that is my most recent episode of 15-Minute Game Show Reviews. I'll have another video out soon. Until then, remember to subscribe to my YouTube channel and follow me on Instagram and Space Hey. I am Marty Yitram, the Geeky American Otaku. Adios, muchachos!